The movie starts as Esther was coming from school with her sister Gloria and she got into a fight with a friend named Ijeoma. Gloria, the elder sister, stopped the fight and was accused of siding with Ijeoma by her young sister Esther, who stormed off and went home. When she reached home, she lied to her mother that Gloria was misbehaving and that is why she was late. This angered their mother to the point that she shouted at Gloria and couldn't allow her to explain herself. Gloria was sad at what her sister did to her but decided to walk it off. The next day, Gloria and Esther are walking from church and a man decides to call on them. Esther rushed to meet the man who said he wanted to talk to Gloria instead. This angered Esther again that she stormed off and left her sister behind to tell her mother that Gloria left her on the road for 30 minutes to be with the man. This angered her mother again because she was led to believe that Gloria was misbehaving again. When Gloria reached home, the mother shouted at her and beat up. The same night, Gloria goes to talk to Esther and asks her why she hates her even though they are sisters and could be best friends. Esther says that they can't be best friends because all the guys like Gloria instead of her. She gets passes while Gloria always gets very good grades. This shows how jealous of her sister Esther was. The next day, Esther is seen ironing her school skirt which she burns and switches hers with her sister's. They enter into an argument as they both claim to own the good uniform, and when the mother comes out, Gloria explains the situation and the mother promises to buy her a new one to keep the peace. Later that evening, the mother sits the two girls down and asks them to get along because they are sisters, and Esther says that Gloria is the problem, which is ironic because Esther was the problem. The next day, a man confronts Esther and tries to beat her for calling his mother a witch, but Gloria tries to save her sister who runs home and tells her mother that Gloria was fighting on the road again and mentioned that Gloria called the man's mother a witch. The scene switches to 3 years later, and Gloria shows up with a man who drops her home and Esther sees her and tells their mother of it, saying that Gloria was now active and would soon be married at the rate that she was interacting with men. Esther later talks to her friend about why things are not working out for her in the same way that they are for her sister, and the friend states that it had to do with her attitude, which she brushes off. Some days later, the man that dropped Gloria off comes to meet her at her house and finds Esther, who tells him that Gloria had gone out with another man, which was a lie of course. She tells the man that Gloria was at a motel where she was doing prostitution, and Gloria got home. She told her to go to the motel because the man wanted to meet her there. The man got there and saw Gloria entering the motel, which confirmed to him that Gloria was a prostitute as Esther had said. The man later sent Gloria a letter to never look for him as it was over because she was a prostitute, and Gloria cried over it. Esther convinced her that the man was just a womanizer looking for the next victim. Esther then went to ask the man out, saying she was different, but the man rejected her. Later, a man named Ken that liked Gloria came to pay dowry and his family came along with him. Gloria already liked the man too and she accepted his marriage proposal. The movie shifts to 10 years later where Gloria, her husband Ken and 2 children were enjoying a nice meal and her sister Esther came to visit. Ken did not like the idea of the sisters staying with them, but Gloria pleaded that she should stay with them for a while and he accepted. Later, Esther got a job but continued to stay with her sister's family and they seemed to be close because Gloria was excited for her sister. After some months, Esther started to get too comfortable that Gloria found her half naked with legs on the table and she told her that her husband didn't like that, which made her storm off out of anger. Gloria goes to apologize to her sister even though she is the one who was wrong, and she thinks Gloria has gone big-headed because she is now married. She decides to teach Gloria a lesson for that. The next day, she decides to buy some oranges for her sister but decides to poison them. When her sister eats them, she suffers the effects of the poison. Ken later comes home with the children to find Gloria down and unconscious. They try to take her to the hospital and the doctor mentions that she was in a coma. Ken cries and prays that the wife doesn't die. After some weeks, Gloria is with her daughter who asks to call the doctor when got conscious, but when the doctor came back home, he declared her dead. When Ken goes to deliver the news, the mother breaks down and declares that whoever killed her daughter would never know peace. After the burial, the mom goes back to the city to resume work, and Esther suggests that the children remain with their grandmother since they still didn't know who killed her sister and that Ken would have no one to take care of the children once he is at work. He agrees and he goes back to the city with Esther, who was still working there. While at house in the city, she mentions that she cares for him and he was not supposed to remain sad, then she prepared something to eat for him. At night, she faked having a nightmare and Ken comes to comfort her and she decides to embrace him and manipulate him into sleeping with her. Back in the village, the children suffer with their grandmother as they don't receive any funding even though their father sent money through Esther, who never delivered it. The children resort to selling fruits for survival to help their grandmother. On the other hand, Esther is enjoying life with Gloria's husband by feasting and romancing with him. One of the children gets sick but there is no money to buy medicine and food, but Esther advises against going to see them. When their grandmother goes to the city, she finds Esther pregnant with Ken's baby, which makes the grandmother cry abomination and she leaves. Later the children visit their father and plead with him, asking what they did to him because he abandoned them. The child said she was just around to see her father and now that he is alive, she had nothing to do with him, so she decides to run away and they go to the police to search for her. Part 2 starts as the child was found and Esther got angry at the child and beat her up once they got home. Later at night, Esther asks Ken to bring his son to the city, but the grandmother did not like it, seeing that she was not in good terms with her daughter. Later Esther makes the girl child the housemaid in the house, and when she thinks the house is not clean enough, she decides to punish her, and she was doing so, their father comes with the boy child. Esther tells them both that they have not seen each other for a week and were hugging, but they will never see their mother because she was dead. Later in the evening, Gloria appears as a ghost and appears to be looking at her children suffering and eating crumbs. She starts to act like their guardian angel and walks with them even as they go to school. Because of the suffering, the kids are made to remember the good times when their mother was alive. They sit down crying as they realize that they only have each other and no one else is coming to save them. Later at school, the girl's teacher Tricia notices that the child was crying and tries to find out what was going on, and she was told that she was being mistreated. She comforts the child and hears her out as they both go out to the teacher's lounge. Later at night, Gloria comes in Tricia's dreams and asks her to help put her house in order and decides to give her a mug cup. She later wakes up and finds the mug cup in her room, which terrifies her. She speaks to both children and they explain everything about how they are being mistreated at home. She promises to talk to their father and they seem to both like her. The scene changes to Esther sleeping at night and she hears Gloria crying while calling her name and she wakes Ken, who brushes it off. The next day, Tricia comes to meet Ken and finds Esther, who tells her to spill the beans. She and Ken talk and she reveals that the children were having bad grades because they were scared of their stepmother Esther. Ken assures that he would handle the situation well. Ken later decides to go and see his children, but Esther refuses him to do so because she was going to have a child for him and was only to care for that child. While dreaming, Ken sees his daughter crying, who then turns out to be Gloria, and he reveals that he has been looking for her, but she tells him to look for Tricia the teacher instead so that the children could be happy, and then she leaves. Ken wakes up and reveals that he saw Gloria, and Esther gets jealous and angry. Later, Esther goes into labor and is taken into the hospital. She is in labor for a long time without giving birth, which leads the doctor to tell Ken to go home and have some rest. After 3 days, Esther is still in labor and she is to go for a cesarean section labor. The kids talk to their teacher, who tries to find out how their mother looked. She goes to talk to Ken and reveals that Gloria keeps telling her intimate things, like she reveals some things that only Gloria could know, and it makes Ken think that his dream was real. Ken tells the teacher to cook something for the kids and she accepts. She later asks him to talk about Gloria and they bond while talking about her. Later, the doctor calls Ken and tells him that his wife had a miscarriage and he asks to see her. While she was sleeping, she has a dream where she was beating Gloria's child and Gloria appears and makes her blind. When she wakes up, she is blind in reality too. She tells Ken about seeing Gloria as they all panic and try to find a solution, which was in vain. Meanwhile, the teacher continues to take care of the kids and they looked good. The father was pleased and continued to thank the teacher. Esther goes back to the house and Gloria appears to block her way, but Ken says there is no one. She tries to sit down and Gloria appears again, which makes her look stupid as she mentions that it is Gloria messing with her. Trisha reveals to the children that she would marry their father and they are happy. Later at night, Gloria appears to Esther again and she wakes Ken up and says that someone was in the room with them. She mentions that Gloria was haunting her, but Ken brushes it off. She shouts that Gloria should leave her alone and rest in peace. Ken decides to take her back to her mother's house, but she still continues to feel Gloria around, where she tells them that Gloria was around. She later just decided to confess that she killed Gloria, which shocks everyone to the point of her mother fainting. Later, the elders sit down to decide to pull a verdict for her mother, so they banish her from the village instead of killing her. They mention that the ritual requires that she is dragged out of the village naked. She then gains her sight and sees Gloria crying for her as she cries too. Esther later decides to kill herself by hanging herself to a tree. Gloria was just standing next to her and the mother came and saw her hanging without shedding any tear because she believed that she deserved it. The movie ends as Trisha is pregnant with Ken's child and the children are happy as a family again.